Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Successful Witches, where we are obsessed with spice, with smut, with happily ever afters being the absolute non-negotiable in this world. I have the most amazing, incredible guest on today's episode, Trilina Pucci herself, who is not only a #1 Amazon and USA Today best-selling fucking author, but a writer of incredible, steamy love stories with everything from mafia to smutcom to stock your bookshelves, your Kindles, your TBRs with, to your heart's content. And you will find yourself falling in love with a whole host of book boyfriends worth binging. And let me tell you, this woman writes smutty fucking goodness that will live rent-free in your brain forevermore. Welcome to the podcast, gorgeous. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm sorry I have to be in like pajamas in my bedroom, but COVID it is.
Yeah, we were just saying before we pressed record how the aftermath of what was an incredible fucking book bonanza at the time that we're recording this. We're only less than a week out from the kind of wrap up of things, and unfortunately, with impending book release and all the things at the time that we were recording, you are bed bound and quarantined.
I was left with a lot of joy and a little bit of COVID.
Yeah. So we've just been basically talking about how the launch and release of Not So Lucky can be like Vegas hotel bedroom themed. If you're still in bed.
Exactly.
We'll just make it a whole vibe. We get the pillows, got the duvet.
Comfort. So everybody has to forgive my voice. They have to forgive my voice because it's so deep. I sound like an R&B singer. So
you've got like perfect romance narrator voice going on.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
So we absolutely are just like fucking over the moon to have you here with us today. It is epic. And we just so appreciate you being able to come here, even though you're probably not exactly feeling the vibe of like having to.
I've got nothing better to do. You know what I mean? Like, why not?
So if you can share with us, because I am really like, I just love knowing what got you into indie romance, because everybody has such a unique journey about how they got into sort of their author journey, how they came about writing. Like, give us all the tea, give us all the goss from the behind the scenes of the Trilina Pucci world, because I'm sure it's got a journey to it.
So, I wasn't really a big romance reader per se. Like, coming into it, I didn't even know that there was like a romance community. I didn't even know that. I kind of stumbled upon all this stuff. I think honestly, like my first romance novel was like Twilight, maybe. And then I thought like they were horny. You know what I mean? So I would like read the first one and I was like, oh my God, I love this. And then I went and got the second one and it gets like a little spicier, a little bit, you know what I mean? And I was like, wait, are they gonna kiss? Like, is that it? Like, is there more to this? Like, what's happening? And then I was like going through and I was like, okay, they're gonna end up together, so we're gonna get like the payoff, you know? And I thought for sure, like it's a romance novel, it's gotta have like a full payoff, right? And it didn't. And I remember like I got the last book, like the Barnes and Noble in my town closed at like it was like late, it was like Christmas time or something. It was like 11 o'clock at night, they closed. And I went to Barnes and Noble, my fucking pajamas at like 10:50 and like mopped up in there for the last copy because I was like, I'm getting the last one because they better be fucking, like I was mad. and they don't ever, you know what I mean? And so like they do, but she like walks onto the water and it shimmers and then like the headboard breaks and I was like, that's it? What the fuck?
Fade to fucking black.
Yeah, I was pissed. And so after that, I started like looking up like paranormal romances, right? So then that led me to like vampires, and then I got like dirtier and dirtier stuff. And then I read some like book about a guy who turns into like a doll. I don't know what I read, but like I was reading a lot of stuff. And I was like, this is cool. I like this stuff. And then of course it led me to 50 Shades of Grey. Because then that came out and I was like all in. And so that was like my first kind of like raunchy romance novel kind of that you would consider raunchy, which looking back on it now, like I think in today's time, because you know the bar moves, like the line in the sand moves constantly.
Yeah.
And so I think if that were to come out today, I'm not sure it would have the same effect, right?
No.
Because everything, but I, you know, maybe it would, because then you would argue that like everything that came after that wouldn't be able to come after that. You know, it's like everything kind of dominoes. So, but yeah, so that was kind of how I came into romance novels in general. In the meantime, I had been, I used to be a professional dancer, and I retired. Like I had to quit because I got injured. And so I taught and did choreography for a lot of places in like the US and like in LA mostly and stuff like that. And I had a baby, and then I had a second baby, and it was during the second kid. I was just kind of like at home. It was during my maternity leave, and I was, you know, I mean, being a choreographer is easy because you get as much maternity leave as you want.
Mhm.
So I was kind of hanging out with my kids, and I journaled a lot, and I started kind of creative writing in my journal sometimes. And that turned literally my journal entry one day just wouldn't leave me. And then the next day I kept thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if, and like a whole plot came to mind. And just for shits and giggles, I'm not kidding. Like this is the most in ridiculous story. It's embarrassing to tell. But like just for shits and giggles, I sat down and I wrote out, I just kept writing, and I didn't stop writing until it was done. And all of a sudden I finished it. And I remember during it, I had read an article that said that there are a bazillion people that write a book, but there are very few that finish a book. And I
Mm.
thought, I'll bet, like challenge accepted. And so I just
Yeah.
finished the book. And then I
Yeah.
didn't do anything with it for 2 years. I sat on it. And then a friend of mine read it and said, you should publish that indie. And I was like, what? They do that? And she was like, yeah, I had no idea. And so I looked it up online, how to do it.
Oh my
I went and looked at some of my favorite novels, found their cover designer, had the cover made. Because I was like, I don't want it to look like shit, right? Compared to everybody else's.
God.
Got an editor, paid way too much, had it edited, and then just put it out there for fun. I thought my mom would buy it, and somehow, I don't know what happened. I hit some kind of like like algorithm rhythm, or I don't know what the hell I did, but all of a sudden I like looked up on like all of the things, and my book had sold a little bit of money, and I was like, what the hell? And so I was like, should I do this for a living? And it was a joke. Like all my friends were like, you dummy, you're a choreographer. What are you talking about? And I was like, I could retire and be a famous author. And they're like, you're not going to be famous, you dumbass. Like, and it was hilarious. It was a joke. It was like a bit. And then I just started writing a second one, and it
That's
just never
fucking
stopped.
epic.
Never
And then
stopped.
it's
And
like,
like 4 books later, they were like, do you do this for a living? And I was like, I don't know. I employ like 3 people, so I think I do. Like it was like crazy.
and then it's like number one rolls round,
Yeah, it
best
was wild.
just rolled
Yeah,
round.
it was wild. I kind of like stumbled upon like this. I don't have like a typical story. People
Yeah.
should work harder. They should work smarter. They should put more effort into like I don't have a typical story. Like I Forrest Gumped my way into this world. And I was like, "Oh, look at this. Hi guys, how's it going?" Like
Like,
I think I was just kind of meant to be here. So like the world was like, "Finally, this bitch figured it out," you know?
but like, isn't that the fucking thing, right? That because you have had that kind of path that felt very organic and flowy and like just fuck it, let's
Yeah.
do it, like let's roll with it. Like that is opening the door and expanding for all the people who get put off by the seriousness of like, oh no, you have to knuckle down, you have to be like
Yeah.
super dedicated, you have to be super disciplined, like all of that kind of can be really off-putting for someone creatively. But then to hear examples of people like yourself who just fucking started and it just
Yeah.
rolled is
Well, I
epic.
think that there's something about being like artistic in nature, because I mean, coming from the fact that like I was a dancer and then I was a choreographer, and like I think it's all kind of renaissance-y, right? Like, I mean, in a way, writing feels like choreography to me a lot. Like it's putting
Mm,
scenarios together to like find a rhythm for people to enjoy and a flow and the whole deal. So they have similarities to me a whole bunch. Um, but I think that there's also something about following your gut, and a lot of times people don't do that because they're like, this is what I should be doing, right? Like,
yeah.
this is how romance should be, or this is what I should be doing in this, and this is how you're supposed to do it. There's no real how you're supposed to do anything. That's like such a fucking myth. And so I just do whatever my gut tells me. Like I follow my gut. So I'm so strongly. Like it's ridiculous. And I don't think I've done everything probably the opposite of what they tell you in this world. And now I pay attention because they're like, oh, don't do that, and oh, don't do this, and oh, and I'm like, well, I broke all those rules. Like I've broken every single rule there is,
Yeah.
because I just
And
follow my gut. Like if it feels right, it feels right to me. then it's going to be the most authentic, and the people that want what I have to offer will find me then, you know?
Mm,
So
mm.
I just go my own way. I don't pay attention.
I fucking love it because I think there's elements we can take. We can learn from other people, right? We can always learn
Yeah,
something from everybody else's journey. We can always learn something from someone who has had quote unquote success, but what the fuck is success? You know, like that's a whole nother
right,
conversation, right? Like how do we
right.
define success as an author? And like we know how easily that can be kind of, I won't say manipulated, but it's very easy to
Yeah.
you know, skew things essentially within the book
No, it can be
world, right?
manipulated. People fucking
Yeah.
buy their success all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's like being that example for other people of following your intuition and trusting your gut and like going with the
Yeah.
things that feel fucking good and knowing that like I'm assuming you're someone as well that when you know you're following what feels good to you, you're also in that kind of like unshakable state of like this is fucking working for me, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I am one of those people, you know, that TikTok that trend that was like, I will take no criticism on the right.
Yeah.
I am that person in my life. Like when I have my mind set to something, like, and the thing is not that I don't work hard or I'm not diligent or I don't do my research. Like I'm not just like flying around by the seat of my pants all the time.
Yeah.
But there's something about when you're putting the work in and you're trusting yourself and you trust your vision and what you want to do and you trust yourself. Like when I wrote Tangled in Tinsel, I'm not sure that there were maybe more than two people that were supportive of that. Almost every single person I know told me I was an idiot. They were like, that's, I mean, not in those words, but, you know, paraphrase, like
Yeah.
they were like, what are you doing? Like writing, you know, a why choose is super niche, by the way. You're never going to hit the charts. You're never going to sell big. You haven't written in a year and a half. So like you need to like go and write something that's a continuation of something that's been successful because no one remembers you. You have to write fast in this market in order to be remembered and be relevant. And you're going to just come out at Christmas time when everybody writes like sweet stuff and like there's people doing like fucking mistletoe kisses and decorating trees and shit. And you're going to have some girl getting railed by four dudes. Like, what kind of moron are you? You know what I mean? And I was like, yeah, it sounds like fun. Like,
Yeah.
I love it, you know? And they were like, no. And I was like, if I love it, someone else will. And they're like, but it's so niche, you're not going to make money. And so I was like, well, then it doesn't make money. That's never been the measure of my success is money.
Mm.
And so I was like, the measure of my success has always been, have I found the right audience for this book? Because I find that if you do find the audience for your book, it will do well.
Mm.
Well is all over the place. But as long as I can, as long as I can, you know, pay myself and pay back what I spent, you know what I mean? Like you have like your numbers or whatever, but like that's never been like I need to be number one. That's ego. That's not a
Yeah.
real thing. It's just ego. Like I don't care about that. Is it nice to make money? Like, yeah, it's nice to make money. But like at the same time, I was super excited about Starcrossed and it didn't make as much money as Tangled, you know. But
Mm.
both of those books I followed my gut on and I really loved. I don't think I ever found my audience for Starcrossed, so I never felt super successful with that book. I didn't do enough. I don't think I did my research or I didn't figure out how to sell
Yeah.
that book enough.
But
And
let's
that
just
book,
like go down that thread for a moment because like you were just I think in your stories and like sharing how
Mhm.
off the back of Book Bonanza you found out that there was like this crazy situation going on with like the Starcross special edition covers or something
Yeah,
like
those assholes. Yeah.
which like is you know for context I think it was like people had got them from your
They were
essentially like
buying them from me
yeah
for what
yeah
I was charging, and then they were going on the buy sell trade lists and they were selling them for an astronomical amount of money, somewhere
yeah
from like I saw some for $800, some for $600 when they'd already paid 50. They were listing them before they'd even picked them up from the from Book Bonanza, and they were just fleecing my readers.
yeah
And I mean, it's shitty. Like I mean, I get that people need to make a living, but you're reselling a book that's not for resell, by the way,
mm,
and you're bartering people's love for me for
yeah
your financial gain.
yeah
That's so shitty. You know what I
and
mean?
that
Like that I said it was for
yeah
$50. So I actually heard about it not on the day that I announced it. I actually heard about it on the Thursday that I arrived at Book Bonanza.
mm,
And I was at dinner and I got a text and someone was like, your fucking book's on the buy sell trade. And they showed me the picture and it was going for 600. And I was like, motherfucker. And so I thought, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And I thought, I'm just going to release them immediately. I was like, I'm just going to release them because then that
yeah
devalues what they're asking.
yeah
But I thought if I release them, then all those people may try to leave them and not pick them up, or may try to get a refund. So I'm just gonna wait because you were trying to fuck me, so I'm just gonna fuck you back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna wait for you to pick up your book and walk off, and I'll sign it. When you say don't make it out to anyone, I'll be like, sure, sure, and I'll just sign it
Yeah.
and be like, see you later. Thanks for picking your pre-sale up. And I'll watch you walk away, knowing that in about 5 hours I'm gonna fuck you up. Like, it's, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I did it on purpose because I thought it was shitty, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. And it just goes to show in many ways that, like, even though, you know, it may feel like that book has got a more niche community to it, like it has got a fucking niche community that are so there for those characters in that book, right?
Yeah,
Like
like,
in
I
in
mean,
a
I
way
love,
that is different to, say, how Tangled went like fucking viral everywhere. Like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think books matter to people, right? Like, and I
Yeah.
feel like for every time I write one, the goal is different too. So like my measure of success has been different for every single book. When I wrote Truth, Worship, and Depraved, my measure of success, because I knew it was three books,
Mm,
my measure of success was that every time I put it out, I wanted people to say that this one was better than the first one. I
mm,
wanted it to be their favorite, so I didn't want to have that trilogy curse where they were like, "Oh, I still like the first one better." Right? Like, I
yeah.
wanted it to be like they just keep getting better and better. I wanted that to be kind of like an overall feeling that people had. So I worked my ass off to try to make sure that each book was kind of better and more gripping, and like the story was even more entangled, and that was, I felt successful because that's what people said. It was never a measure of money for me. With Star-Crossed, I wanted people to cry. And I wanted to write something like that I felt was beautiful. So it wasn't even a measure of what they said back to me. I just wanted to feel like it was beautiful.
Yeah.
And I felt like that at the end. So I felt like it was a success. I was like, great, it's all done. With Tangled, I just wanted to have a good time. And just I didn't even remotely expect where it was going to go. And I wanted to, my measure of success for that one was not proving myself wrong, but a friend of mine had told me you should write rom-coms. And I was like, no, I think I'm funny in person, but like not on paper. And she was like, you're a dumb hoe. Like, you should write rom-coms. And I'm like, no, like, I'm like, some people are like hee hee ha ha when we're like together, but like
Yeah.
I write it down and it doesn't have like the effect. And she was like, that's the stupidest thing you've ever said ever, And I was like, I wait for it. I might have something else for you. But I was like, you never know. So that was me being brave. And that was how I was going to be brave, because I was like, I'm kind of scared to do it, but I feel like it's less of a risk writing a Christmas book because like it's a one-off. Like, who cares? And I'll write this dirty little piece of thing and we'll all have fun, and it'll be what it is. And apparently it was really fun for a lot of people.
Apparently everyone else fucking
Yeah, like I didn't
that
expect
shit,
it.
gobbled it up, and like
Yeah.
it went
And like
nuts.
for this one, for Not So Lucky, the measure of success is that I just wanted it to be funnier because, the first one, the plot was Samantha, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like this one has a plot. And so I wanted people to read a rom-com that I had a plot with, like it. But more importantly, I wanted them, like, I set out to be funny, like
Yeah.
really funny, like to write a rom-com. So I
Mhm.
wanted to, I wanted people to talk about how funny it was. And so far, that's what everybody says right off the bat. So that's making me happy.
Yeah, and I mean, Tangled in itself was like laugh out loud funny for me. Like, it that really did come through on the page. And I mean, that's, like you say, I can totally appreciate why it would be that sort of moment of like, shit, am I going to actually be able to translate this onto the page? Because
Yeah.
writing humor is fucking hard. Like, to
Yeah.
actually get that kind of physical reaction out of someone. Because have you seen all those things where people are like, oh, this is my face when I'm reading like the most filthy smut ever, like, that people can just read it with like the blankest face ever.
Yeah. Yeah. I am the opposite. Everything's on my face. Like when I'm like you can see because I'm like, like I get all sweaty and like crazy. But like I mean, when I'm writing the jokes though, like um I have a whole conversation in my head like with me. Do you know what I mean? So like it's just me and me sitting there laughing together like two
Like the
psychopaths.
greatest
And
comedy act you've ever invented.
I think I'm so funny. Like I sit there and I'm like cackling. I'm laughing to myself so hard. And it helps that I have some friends. There are some author friends that I write with on Zoom
Yeah.
like this. And we sit on a Zoom and keep each other like kind of sprinting and stuff like that. And so they'll see me like my shit. Like I'm like Like, and they all come off and they're like, all right, give it, tell us what you're talking.
Yeah.
And so it helps that I get to like say it right away almost because they all enjoy it. And then I really know that it's funny because we're all laughing together, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And it's like, yeah, if you're not making yourself laugh, like,
Yeah,
we know as authors, like you've got to write kind of for yourself first and foremost, right? Like
right,
you've got to love what you're doing, and that's
right.
always going to shine through on the
I mean,
page.
if I think something's funny, I feel like other people will, or at
Yeah.
least people like my humor will, you know?
Yes.
So
Yeah. And which is also the thing, right? That it's like we're not trying to write books that is like for absolutely everybody in the world. We're trying to write books that are for our people.
yeah. Yeah, you just have to find your audience. It's always funny to me when people are like, nobody likes my book. And I'm like, no, you just I say this to so like I've had a couple of friends who've gone from like, newbie writer, like just writing, starting for the first time. And they're like, what if nobody likes it? And I'm like, that just means that you didn't work hard enough to find your audience.
Mm,
That's it. Like that's it. It has nothing to do with things creative writing is subjective. You can never say this is good or bad. That's not, you cannot rate creative writing like that. I mean, there are critics that try sometimes, but it's very difficult because it is subjective and it is all full of style. There are broken down rules. Like we don't have to follow the same kind of thing. So all the time I say, like, if you feel like if you're getting lots of 1 stars or 2 stars or whatever, it's a different thing if you get a whole bunch of low ratings and they're like, this book was poorly edited. Where the fuck are the
yeah.
commas? You know what I mean? Like, where are the
Yeah,
periods?
yeah.
We should probably see somebody about that. You know what I mean? Like that's a fixable
There's
item.
professionals you can pay.
That's a fixable item. But if people are just like, I didn't like this book, it wasn't for me, that doesn't mean that you didn't write a good book. It's that you marketed it to the wrong people.
Yeah, exactly.
You
It's
got to
like,
go find people that think your trash is treasure. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I love that you kind of you've had a great sense of humor with like embracing that a little bit with Tangled in Tinsel as well. That I think some
Oh
of those
yeah,
ones that you pulled out that were like the 1 star ratings of like, where's the plot? And I'm like, this is the entire reason we are reading this book and fucking loving
for
it. Like,
sure. Yeah.
it is a
Dude,
fucking good
some of
time.
those 1 stars, they killed me. Like they were making
Yeah.
me laugh so hard because when people hate a book, they fucking hate a book. Like they will be like, I hope she gets gonorrhea and her dog dies. You know what I mean? Like they will hate you. And it is so funny that people get like so, emotional. I've never been that attached to any book that I felt like that about. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so it's
And
always so funny to me.
you can't help but like go, what did you expect picking up a book about a girl and 4 guys getting
I
snowed
don't know.
in?
Like, I'm like, I'm sorry there wasn't enough character development for you. Like, whatever. Like, I don't even
We were
know. I'm sorry, man. Well, I remember saying, like, I had made a comment that, like, somebody was like, when I'm making the jokes, it's a lot of my humor. And I
Mm.
think that it's funny because Eleanor, the one in Not So Lucky for this one, she's me. I wrote myself for sure. Like I'm such a fucking narcissist. I wrote myself for sure. And because when my beta was reading it, or my alpha, she was reading it, and halfway through, she messaged me and she goes, I don't know if you realize this or not, but like you wrote you. And I was like, no, I didn't. And she's like, you even made her a Gemini, you dummy. And I was like, no, I didn't even think about that. Like, she's me for sure. But her humor in book one was like is my humor, right? I didn't have to change
Mm.
it to like make it more about the character. Like it was my humor. And I never thought I would write a book for Eleanor.
Mm.
So I just wrote Tangled because I was like, I didn't know what it was gonna do. I didn't think it would hit I was just I hadn't written in a year and a half. So I was like, whatever, I'll put this out. We'll see what happens. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I thought my audience would enjoy it because they've all been bugging me to put a book out. And so I put it out and then it like fucking, and I was like, wait, what's happening? Right.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, when does Eleanor get a book? And I was like, oh shit. Like, I
Like,
gotta write it.
what have I done?
I was like, whoops, my bad. So I was like, screw it. Why not? Let's do it. So I thought of her story like almost immediately
Yeah.
because I'm really good with plots. Like if you give me like 3 words and be like, make a plot about that, and I'll give you an entire plot. So like it's like a little gift. It's my little secret weapon.
Yeah.
So some people can sing. I can just make up stories like a loony, right? So I put her story together really quick and I was like, oh, that's it. That's it for her. And then I started writing it and I kept trying to write her different and it was taking me forever. And everybody was like, she doesn't feel authentic. And I was like, be quiet, because I knew it was me. Do you know what I mean? And I was like,
Mm.
dude, I'm gonna have to write myself. Like this is awkward.
Yeah.
So I so I just went for it, and you don't mind if I change positions here.
No, no, go for it.
So I went for it and I just wrote myself, and it was, I mean, the easiest banter I've ever written because it was every one of my fucking thoughts. But
Yeah.
now when people read it, if they're like, I don't like the heroine, I'm gonna be like, my bad.
Like, well,
Might
there's
want
a
to
lot more
unfriend
where
me.
that
You know
came
what I
from.
mean? Like, yeah, it's like awkward, but I don't care. People are allowed to hate books. I don't take it personally.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, if this isn't for you, here's my entire back catalog of like other women who are not.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe I got something else you like. Yeah, like
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like I don't. It never bothers me like a 1 star, 2 star, 3 star. I don't even care. I don't even look at them. I don't feel like it's my business.
No, exactly. It's like, and also how someone receives a book or a character or whatever is so fucking dependent on their situation, their mood, their
Yeah,
like what brain space they're in. Like we all know we've read books like one day and then like the next day we're like in a completely different mood and we're like, oh yeah, this is actually like, way more enjoyable than it was yesterday or whatever the case may be, right? Like,
right.
yeah.
I mean, you just literally never know. Like you never know how things are gonna go, or um, you never know how like somebody could be having a bad day and they pick up your book and something triggers them and they're like, this is shit. You know what I mean? Like you just never know.
Yeah.
It's just I don't care.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to
Exactly.
me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that like rampant success of Tangled, like can you just speak about that for a moment of what that was like for you going through that? Because I think I remember like seeing in
Such
your
a
stories
hard.
like as we got to that point that you were doing kind of like the reverse, like the countdown of like we were at number 5 and then it was at number 4 and then it was at number 3 and it was just like shit kept going and going and you were just like in your stories like and
I was
everyone was
tripping. Like,
so there on like tenterhooks with you the whole time. It was
so
nuts.
I had yeah, so I had never hit top 100 before in my life. So the closest I had ever come was like 215. That was the
Mm,
closest I'd ever come to it. So, and that felt incredible. But like I always did well with my books because they always went around somewhere around the 300. So I always felt very successful
yeah,
financially, if we're
yeah.
talking financial success. I always felt like I was, doing well. And but I don't think you get into writing for money. So it's not anything that I was like really looking for that 6 figures. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
writing, right?
Yeah. There are other
So
business models to explore if that's your goal.
for sure, like law is probably a
Yeah.
better choice. I don't know. So so and I also am a person of like I said, coming from a creative mind, I'm somebody who's like very not lazy, but like I don't have a watch. Like I don't have a watch. Like I
Yeah.
go on my own time, like you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I'm very much that kind of artistic mindset. So a year, like I said, I hadn't written a year and a half. I was like, whatever. So when it hit and it started, it was the first day where it was kind of dropping, and I was noticing that it was kind of dropping, and I was like, that's cool. And then it got down to like in the ones. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm kind of close to top 100. Could I make top 100? Right? Like, I didn't know, but I was
Yeah.
like, fingers crossed. I was hoping for like 98. That would be cool. Like, just to get on
Yeah.
there. You know what I mean? And then I'll be off the next day, but I'd be like, ooh, I was there, or whatever. And
But
so,
this is for context for anyone who hasn't like followed this story. This is like every single book out there, right? Like this is not just within. We're talking like top 100 of like everything,
every book, right?
not
Like
just
every
like a
book,
specific niche like category. We're talking every fucking book out there.
every book, right? So I was sitting there and I was like, this is kind of cool. Maybe I could hit the top 100, right? So then I go and I was doing something. We were kind of checking on it, and it was kind of tongue in cheek, like, well, would I don't know, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And I thought maybe number 98, maybe 99, like that would be so cool to make it. And it just feels like it's got a lot of love and a lot of big names talking about it. So like maybe, right? Like
Yeah.
if it's my time, right? Maybe. So I went off and I was like making lunch or something. Like I wasn't really paying attention and getting a lot of calls from people, whatever. And then I got it hadn't updated for hours. And that's actually a good sign. So for any new
Mm,
authors listening to this, if you have a book, Amazon updates every hour on the hour. If you have a book that is not updating, that means people are buying your book so often that they don't want to stick it to a number because they know they're going to have to update it. So they hold it until there's a little bit of a lull. And that's usually at specific times of the day when
yeah.
people are like transitioning from their work to their car,
Yeah.
things like that. So you'll notice at like 10 o'clock, that's when people are starting work and they have to put their phone away real quick. Like, so you're not going to get as many buys. And then all of a sudden it'll start going fast again because then everybody's doing stuff and not working. And then towards the end of the day, it'll do it again. Like, so it's a good thing for it to not do that. So the longer it takes to like show to, you know, redo or whatever, then the more of a drop you're going to make towards that top 100. So a lot of people don't know that. So now you know. So anyway, I knew that. And I was watching it and it had been hours. It had been since 10 o'clock in the morning. And it was like maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It hadn't updated yet. And I was like, what the fuck? Where's it gonna go? Right? Like, and I was tripping. But I was like, don't get your hopes up, Trilina. Don't be dumb. Right? Like, so I was like, just make your sandwich. So I was just making my sandwich, not paying attention. And then all of a sudden my phone just starts like my husband's phone goes off. I'm getting a phone call like like on my computer from my office. I was like, what in that did the world end? Like, what is happening? So I'm scrambling and I pick it up and everyone's like, oh my God, you updated. And I was like, but wait, where are we? And they're like, I don't know, you're on the movers and shakers list. And they were saying like, you have but it doesn't show. And I was like, wait, what is going on? And I couldn't find a number. And then as I'm looking, as they're all talking at the same time, because it was like a bunch of people on a call, like all my friends were calling. I had messages coming through and Emily McIntyre actually was like, congratulations, you're number 55 on the chart. And I was like, shut the fuck up. And I fell apart. I just started hysterically crying. And I was like, oh my God. And it was like the best moment of my life because who would have ever thought like 55? The fuck? Like that's, I was hoping for 99. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe like 100. Like just
like
straight. It was like 55. And I was hysterical. And my husband was hugging me and the kids were screaming and jumping up and down. And it was a whole thing, you know? So I made a video about it and I was really appreciative because I'm always very appreciative, like genuinely about things. And I try to surface my life around joy and being grateful and not greedy. You know what I mean? Like I try to like, so I was just wanted to say thank you immediately, like in the moment, not for the video or not for the content, but like to really tell people how thankful I was. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna start crying. Like I was overwhelmed in that moment. And so then I thought that's the best it's gonna get. Right? Like that's fucking hey, right? And then 2 hours later it had dropped to like I think it was like, no, it was 55 and I was super excited. And then I went and I had to do a podcast, like on a TikTok live or something like that. And it had not dropped again for several hours, but I thought, surely that rule doesn't apply once you're on the, do you know what I mean? Like, and so I had gone to, was coming upstairs and I got another call and they're like, you're number 22. And I was like, fuck you. And I was like, I didn't even know what to do. Right. I was like, holy, this is
goosebumps listening to this.
It was like towards the end of the night now. It was like 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I was like, it's not gonna go again. Like, this is incredible though. Like, I was like, I don't even know how to like so I'm doing the IG live and I'm like, you guys, I can't believe it. Like I'm fucking crying on the live like a jackass, right? And then while I'm on the live, I got a little piece of paper on my door that says like mommy's on a live, right? So that the kids, because I have 3 kids, and they'll just walk in and be like, Mom, can you make me a sandwich? Mom, can I go? And I'm like, I'm in an interview. You know what I mean? Like they don't care. So they're jerks. I love them. So they all of a sudden I start my phone. I'm on like my computer like this. My phone is on the table and it's like bzz, 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 bzz. It's too far from my reach, right? And I'm like, oh yes, no, I'm really enjoying it. I'm trying to be serious, but like, and I can't reach my phone, but it's buzzing, and it's buzzing enough that it's moving. And I'm like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden my door, knock, 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 knock. And I'm like, what is happening right now? Like it goes on for like 10, 15 minutes. I start seeing messages pop up on my computer, but it doesn't say anything. Like I can just see the person, but it's like message after message after message. And I was like, like, I don't know, but I can't get off the interview. You know what I mean? And I'm like, ugh. So finally I go, guys, I loved like, thank you for having me. We've been here for about an hour, but my people are knocking on my door. My phone is buzzing. They're like, oh my God, we can't get, and they were stuck on the thing. Like, so they couldn't get off to see like on a computer. Well, I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I gotta go. And they were like, absolutely.
Eject.
And so I like hang up. I like close my computer and I walk to my door and I fling the door open because the kids are just knock, 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 like won't stop. And I open the door and I go, what? Right? Like, because I was like, either somebody died, right? Or like, you know, something exciting has happened. And they were holding a sign out there that said, you're number 12. And that was it. I fucking lost it. Like I fell to the ground. They were screaming. We were excited. We were so happy. And then that started off the journey. And then every day it just kept getting lower. And I was like, you fucking guys, are you serious? And I would wake up in the morning, it would be like number 15. And I was like, okay, that's it. We were number 12, but that was good.
Yeah.
And I was like, listen, I am not going to be sad about the climb back down because frankly, I've never been at any of these numbers either.
Yeah.
So like, fuck it, 88 is going to look good to me. You know what I mean? I've never been there before either, like, so I was like, this is exciting. And but every day it would be like, I'd wake up and it'd be like 15. And then by like an hour in, it was like number 11. And I was like, wait, what? And then it was like number 10 and then 9. And it just kept baby stepping. And I was like, what's happened? Like, how long could this last?
Yeah.
And when we got to number 5, everybody on the internet was like, you're going 1. And I was like, no, this can't happen. And then it was like 4. And everyone was always commenting like, bitch, you're gonna go 1. And I was like, no way. Like, I can't believe it in my heart. Like, no way. And then it just fucking went 1. And I was like, I'm number 1. And then what I didn't even realize at the time was I was number 1 in the Kindle store, right? Because and they have a whole other section of books, which is like nonfiction and fiction together. And I didn't realize that at one point in time, I was number 22 on that list. And I didn't know the difference in all these lists. So I was like screenshots and I had no clue. And I never even posted about it. But like I was like, I was like beating Michelle Obama's book. Sorry, Michelle, I love you. I'm sorry. Like I felt like I was like, that's wild. But I had no idea about any of these things. I was so new that I was like, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden my little, bestseller tag went away and it turned blue and it said Amazon charts. And I was like, what are the Amazon charts? And then I was on the Amazon charts for all, and I was like, what is fucking happening? Like it was like, if it never happens again, I would be satisfied.
Yeah.
Like it was great.
Like, I feel like there is a scene that is going to end up in a book at some point in time of like that moment of like being stuck on like a video call and like shit's going off like all over the room. And like, I'm sure there's some storyline, some
No,
character.
for real. I mean, it felt like the whole thing felt like a movie. Like when we found out that I was number 1, I was sitting upstairs in my office, and a friend of mine, a dear friend of mine, texted me, and I was sitting with my daughter actually, and we were just chatting, and she was telling me how proud she was of me actually. And we were just sitting there, and then she was asking me to do her hair, and I was like, sure. And we were talking about Christmas because it was all, at Christmas time.
Yeah.
And she was like, do you think you'll hit number 1? And I said, who cares? Number 2 feels fucking good, right? Like everything. Like this is a dream. Who cares about that? Like, this is incredible. Like, this has been a ride of my life. And she was like, absolutely. And she's like, you slay queen, whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna take that 16-year-old compliment for life, right? And so we were laughing. And all of a sudden, a dear friend of mine, I got a text from her. And she said, congratulations to the best person I know. You're number 1. And I was like, wait, what? And I immediately went to the charts, like, because they were like now permanently on my phone, right? So I went to the chart to look, and there was Tangled in Tinsel at number 1. And I was like, and I dropped everything I had in my hand, and I just like zoomed outside my door because I wanted to tell my husband, because I knew he was going to be so proud of me and so like happy for me. And I zoomed out to tell him. And thankfully, my 16-year-old techie was smart enough to grab my phone. I didn't even know she was recording. And she grabbed my phone, and she was videotaping me. I didn't even know she was behind me. And she was just videotaping the thing the whole way down the stairs. And I saw him, and I said, we're number 1. And we all just started jumping, and then my kids jumped on me, and it was very celebratory.
Honestly,
we bottle of champagne or 2 might have been had that night. It was very exciting. Yeah.
Honestly, like I remember seeing that video. So like just hearing you talk about it is like bringing back like full body chills, because it was it was literally how you
can't tell I'm crying because I have too much Botox, but
honestly, like so fucking like and I mean, so like, of course, because that book is fucking delicious, right? Like, and it was just like it's one that, even though, as you say, it's like it's Christmas themed, but it is like fun for the whole year round.
Oh yeah, no, it's a girl for all seasons for sure.
Yeah. And like, because right here, like for us right now, as we're recording this in New Zealand, like we're in the middle of winter, so it's like for anyone who is any Australian, New Zealand babes watching this, like, or listening in, like Tangled in Tinsel is your perfect like midwinter Christmas treat.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, let's celebrate some Christmas time for you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Gonna go talk to
Oh,
my Australian folks, make a video for them just for tonight.
yeah.
Um,
Be
yeah, it
like,
was
hey.
wild, but it was like the coolest part about it was that like my kids got to watch me work really hard.
Yeah.
And because they're always a step, they're always a part of every process that I do. They know what I do. They know like what I write. I don't make any, I don't think sex is a bad thing. So like they know that I write books with sex in them. Like it's not dirty or gross or anything like that. And they were just really proud of me. Like they see the late nights that I spend and they see the times that I'm sending all the emails and I'm packaging up all the stuff. And they were
Yeah.
just to see them be so proud of me and to go and tell all their friends at school, my mom's number one. She's number one bestseller. Like they still say it, like they are so proud of me. That was the best part, was like my family's reaction for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you could just feel that, like, being part of your community, that like this was something that truly was like, you guys were all celebrating it. And like, yeah, you like the vibe, the community vibe around it was amazing. Like,
The
for the fact
community
that
vibe was
it's like,
incredible. Like the book community was incredible. They were like, buy it more. We're getting her to number one. Like they were just so down to get me there. And I was like, you guys, but also I felt like it was like an inside joke for all of us because there are all these like serious books up there. You know what I mean? And it was like the nastiest fucking shit on number one. You know what I mean? It was like, and everyone that
yeah,
told me like, oh, this book is so niche. And I was like, is it niche? Because it looks like it's niche for the whole fucking world.
it looks
Like,
like a whole lot of fucking people want this.
yeah. I was like, what's your definition of niche? Is it like opposite day? Like, I don't understand. Like, because I was like, it looks like the world is down for some
Yeah,
dirty shit. Like,
it turns out there are a lot of readers out there who want a Jace, they want a Cole, they want
yeah,
like,
they were in for it,
yeah.
man. Yeah. Which was scary too, because then for the next one, I was like, are people not gonna like it because it's not a white shoes?
Yeah, it's
And I
like,
was like,
how do you
oh,
then, because it's like, once you've gone like, four guys, like you've either got to like keep going and be like that author that like writes the
yeah,
like the really
yeah,
big white shoes groupings,
yeah,
or as you say, like kind of go in a different direction. And that's what I'm really excited about what Not So Lucky is going to explore, because it is
yeah,
her and him and sometimes them.
yeah,
Which,
yeah.
if you how much can you share about Not So Lucky for those of
You can
us
share whatever you
who
want. You can ask
haven't
me whatever you
yet
want. I
met
mean,
Eleanor, because she features
oh,
little cameos in Tangled and Tinsel, and now
yes.
this is her own little smutty adventure, which we're very excited for.
Yeah. I should have sent it to you earlier. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Oh no, like I'm gonna be right there, like, because I think by the time when this comes out, it'll be live, but at the time that we're recording, we're only like 3 days out from release. So I am gonna be like aggressively in your DMs, like screaming as we go through the book. So you can enjoy that when that comes around.
Yeah, yeah. Like it is, it's wild to me because it's wild to me because okay, so Tangled and Tinsel, she had her sister was Eleanor, right? We had
Yeah,
some cameos where like Eleanor had like a lot of texting with her sister because
yeah,
obviously her sister snowed in, right?
yeah,
In more ways than one.
yeah, yeah.
And all the text messages from Eleanor are hilarious. Like she's
Yeah,
just such a character, right?
yeah,
And she's like very free sexually. Like she's just kind of a wild character and
yeah,
she's funny.
yeah.
So I thought, okay, I know what I'll do. I'll set her to Vegas because obviously that's where she should go. Now
What what
my
what shenanigans could possibly
yeah, I'm like,
unfold?
that's a wholesome space to go to. That's fine. Um so and Vegas is my hometown. So if I
Mm,
was going to write about a city, like it's
yeah,
easy to write about because it's I was born and raised there, so I know everything
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
So so and it was easy to like find spots and fun places for them to go and like blah blah
yeah.
blah. So the book is in dual point of view, so you know who the hero is.
Mm,
I wanted that to be obvious from the get.
yeah.
There is a group scene. Um, it's everything that we love, but it feels like you get your cake eh, and you get to eat it too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because we get the fun group stuff because they're just like people that like the kink of it. Like they just like to have some good times. It's
yeah,
okay. Like it's just a fun. I mean, there are people in the world that do shit on a Saturday night that it's not a kink, it's not a fetish, it's not their lifestyle. They just did some crazy shit on a fucking Saturday night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it, right? Like,
Yeah.
so this is Eleanor. Like she's just, she's like that character in Sex and the City, Samantha, who says, like, I'll try everything once.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's she's down for everything. Like she's like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and so there is a group scene and it's delicious. And but there are a lot of scenes with crew and just her,
Mm.
because that's her hero in the end, and that's who she
Yeah.
falls for.
Yeah.
And he was fun. It was funny because when I wrote him, I was like, I'm basically competing with four guys,
Yeah.
because everybody that read Tangled and Tinsel automatically, I mean, I hate to say that it'll be dirtier, but automatically in my head, the way that I would be as a reader is I would categorize a Why Choose as automatically dirtier than like a male female.
Mm.
Even if you did wacky shit in that male female, right? I would still
Yeah.
categorize getting railed by four people
Yeah.
as opposed to just one person categorically different. Like it's just,
Yeah.
so it always felt like apples and oranges to me. I just knew that when Crew showed up, he had to show up in a way that he was like kicking down the door. Like that you were like,
Mm. Yeah.
damn, right?
Like,
Like that everyone was like, for a one-on-one scene, or like just a male-female scene, that's the dirtiest shit I ever read, right? Like, so I needed to make sure that it was spicy for people to read in its own element, but I never compared them as far as that, like, because it
mm.
felt like apples and oranges to me, because I feel like Tangled would always be the 6 out of 5 Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
There are four dudes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. There
so
is a lot more, just inherently a lot more going on.
right, you know what I mean? Like, right, it's a whole ass jizz convention every time Samantha walks in the room. Like I can't, like, there's only one of him. You know what I mean? Like he
I
tires easy. Like it's
I
one
love
dude.
as well that your like choreography skills probably come in epically handy writing a scene between
Yeah, they do
people.
actually. They do. They do. Yeah, I like map that out in my head. I'm like, okay, so
Yeah.
he's the second lane, but like yeah. So it was, but the one group scene we have, I think lives up to Tangled and Tinselled for sure. Because these boys are a different breed. I will say that in Tangled, like if anyone's comparing them, right? The boys in Tangled were all hot. They're all hot in different ways. They all have like individual kind of kinks, right?
Yeah.
And then but they're also like nice guys. And there's one really alpha one. Like Cole is probably like our broody alpha
Yeah.
guy, right? I would argue that in Not So Lucky, I would say that all three of these boys are equally alpha. Um, right. And they don't have
Fans oneself
necessarily
already.
they don't necessarily have like individual kinks the way that the
Yeah.
Tangled boys do.
Yeah.
Um, they just like to fuck. So
Mm.
like they just show up for that. You know what I mean? Like they're good for it.
Mm,
But
mm,
like they
mm.
are two of them work very well together,
Yeah.
and one of them stands out on his own. And I think we can figure out that Crew is the one that stands out on his own.
Mm.
So but yeah, they're a good team. They work well together. I mean, they're on a football team together. They're teammates. They
Yeah.
work well.
Yeah. They're literal teammates.
Right. They know how to share the ball. But like it's a good scene. But my favorite scene in the whole book, my favorite spicy scene in the whole book is the last one with Crew. And it's maybe the dirtiest thing
Mm.
I've ever read.
Ah, like that right there. It's just like add
Well, like
add to cart.
I called my PA, I called my assistant and I was like, did I cross the line here? Or is that, because I don't know. Like I can't tell. And she was like, please keep that. And I was like, okay, good. So it was good. Okay, good, good, good. I was like,
Yeah.
yay. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was pretty spicy. So I'm really happy with it. But it has a whole plot this time. Like it's not just about the it's not just about the
That
sex.
plot.
Yeah, it has a whole plot this time, but it's a fun plot. And I tried to really make it feel like one of those kind of like early 2000s rom-coms. You know what I mean? Like the old school, like, Never Been Kissed, where he's like, running against the clock to get to the middle to kiss her. Like I wanted like those kind of feels where everybody had like a feel-good ending,
Yeah.
but the banter was like chef's kiss hilarious. And there were some funny scenes, like there's a funny like situational scene that's probably my favorite thing I've ever written ever. Like I laughed so hard. And then I had my friend read it, and then she was reading it out loud and she laughed so hard. We were both laughing. It was so fun. So yeah, I really like it. I'm a big fan of it. I'm excited for people to read it.
Yeah, and I honestly cannot wait. And it is going to be a hell of a ride. And of course, we could talk about like all of your world, all of your books all day long. I just am absolutely obsessed with everything you've written. Tell us how people can come be part of your world, where they can find you, where they can get amongst things. And we also have some very special things going down with the release of Not So Lucky, if I am
Right. That's right. That's
yeah.
right. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yeah. Okay, so the best way to find me if you want to keep in touch with me is on Instagram.
Yeah.
Because that's my place. That's my boo. That's my boo thing. I love Instagram so much. I'm on there all the time with stories and I answer all my DMs. So like it's so fun and I love it there. So it feels like a community. So that's the best place to find me because I talk all information there. All things go first time. Like first up, it always goes on Instagram first. I have a reader group on Facebook, but I mean I'm easy to find. You just have to type in Trilina. It's not like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not a common name, so like I come up everywhere. But I think that what was I gonna say? I have COVID brain now. I forgot. Oh yeah, I was gonna say and TikTok. Like those are my three,
Yeah.
like TikTok, Instagram, and my Facebook reader group. But you can find all the links on like my bio on Instagram
Yeah.
or on my website,
Yeah.
trilinapucci.com. But you can also find on my website the contest that I'm doing. So for Not So Lucky, since it's set in Vegas, I decided to give back because everybody gave me so much with Tangled and Tinsel. uh it was such an incredible thing that everybody did for me. I wanted to do something fun for the whole community. And there was a lot of talk when we first started off of doing like promo boxes and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of authors do those. And I think they're cool. I think they're amazing. And I think it's great that people do them. But sometimes I notice they always go to like the same people, and that's
Mm.
okay because those people have worked their ass off for their following and that's great. But I wanted to do something equitable for everyone that was like for all the readers and every
Mm.
influencer and like for your mom who like isn't part of the book community necessarily, like how could she enter, for
Yeah.
like everyone that is a reader of that book.
Yeah.
So I'm giving away a trip for two to Las Vegas, a free trip for two to Las Vegas. And to enter, all you have to do is post about Not So Lucky, use a little hashtag, and then you just take that post and you submit your link, and we're going to put it into a raffle. So you can post as many times as you want. It goes all the way through until the end of July. And then basically someone gets picked to take the trip that Eleanor takes in the book. I'm sending them on the same trip, gangbang not
That
included, but like I'm
honestly,
sending them on the same trip. But I mean, it's even like, for instance, my mom is not a part of the book community. She can't enter because she's my
yeah.
mom. But like that's an example. Like she's not a part of the book community, but she likes my book. She hears wind of this, then okay, maybe you have a book club, right? So you can submit your link that in the book club that you said, oh, I'm reading this book and I love it. Boop. That
Get it
counts.
in there. Get it in
Yeah,
there.
like anyone that's a part of a book community
Yeah.
can can submit their links and you talk about me and there it is.
It's gonna be fucking epic. And it is such a cool idea because as you say, it is the heart of where this book is, happening, the events, go be part of the vibe. Like what more
Yeah,
can you want as a fucking reader
yeah,
to
it's
actually
cool. I mean,
like
it's
live
flight
the
and
experience?
hotel and all the fun stuff. Like it's a
Oh,
free trip
oh,
for two. It's open to the US and Canada. I'm
yeah.
sorry, Australia, New Zealand, you guys are expensive. Okay. Like
Yeah. Like we've got to get you to number one a few more
maybe
times,
another
and you
number
can do
one
like
and
a
we can talk
worldwide.
about a trip. Yeah, for Australia, New Zealand. Exactly. You gotta get maybe one more number one under my belt. But
Yeah.
so
It's like the incentive, like for the rest of the world.
yeah, I'm like, come on, guys, you guys gotta be. I mean, the Brits are gonna have to work harder because I only made it to number like 5 on their chart, so like they're gonna have to work harder on
Yeah, it's like, come on, let's embrace all the dicks, all the. uh,
that.
it has been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you so much for coming and giving us so much of your
Thank you
time,
for having
and
me.
thank you for writing these fucking epic characters and worlds. And just I can hand on heart say that like I cannot wait to laugh out loud at this book. I've been watching like your early readers and the reactions and things on social media. It just looks like it is going to be a fucking epic time. So we will make sure to link up everything in the show notes with this episode. Thank you so much, gorgeous. And for all of you following along, listening along, make sure to go and get your copy. Make sure to go and follow Trilina, all the places. And we are at successful.witches, and I am at Elliot Rose Author, and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for being here, as always. Bye.
Bye.